Alright, just wanted to do a quick little trigger job from start to finish so you guys can see that a Rock Island is capable of having a decent trigger with its stock parts. Everything inside of it is cast. I don't recommend doing, sear work on a cast sear or a metal injection molded sear, but if the pistol's not going to see thousands and thousands of rounds, you can get away with stoning a Rock Island sear. So here, we'll just show what we got stock here. Just about 5 pounds. It'll break between like 4 3/4 and 5 pounds every time. It's a nice even pull here. See, there was 4.5. It's between 4.5 and 5 pounds on this particular stock Rock Island. There's 5 again, so we'll bring it down to about 3.5. Let's get to going here. This is a buddy of mine's pistol. He's aware that it's a Rock Island and it's not the greatest quality and it's not a target gun, but he just wants it to have a little bit better trigger than it does currently, and that's fine with me. Quick little job here, and won't be much fitting of parts because all the parts are going to be reused. It's just going to be use the stock pieces that are in there. I'm going to replace the spring with a Ned Brown spring. Other than that, though, it'll be all stock rock stuff. Ball end disconnector from the factory. You guys can see that. All this, sear, disconnector, metal injection molded, hammer appears to just be cast, grip safety is cast, mainspring housing cast. The pins even appear to be cast because they got little casting marks on the ends. Thumb safety cast. I think the bushing's even cast, but still, for $450, $500. I've shot them for hundreds and hundreds of rounds. I never put thousands of rounds through a Rock Island, but I'm sure there's plenty of them out there that can take it. Alright, first thing I'm going to do is buff up this this trigger ball. I'll do that later so that we're not spending time on the video doing that. Let's get to going on our sear. Throw the sear in the Ed Brown jig here. This. Our sear pin through. Let's check and see what we got for overhang here. And again, I don't know if you guys will be able to see this. But it's hanging past a good 3 or 4 thousandths. So stone that away. Grab a stone. Too much there. There we go. And being that this isn't a hardened part, it's just a metal injection molded sear, it shouldn't take too long to stone this down. A very high spot over here. It's only cutting from about here to here right now. There wasn't much creep in this trigger, but it'll feel a lot more refined after I'm done here. stoning this relatively soft metal and giving it such a fine edge, it's not going to be the longest lasting sear in the world, but like I said, this Rock Island is not going to see 5,000–6,000 rounds a year. It'll probably have, you know, less than 500 rounds a year, so I doubt he'll wear this sear out. But you know, for right now, it'll be a little bit more enjoyable to shoot with no money imparted. Well, other than me doing the work for him, but that's another story. It's a 20,000 shim I'm using. It's the same that comes with the jig. There's guys that'll do a .018. You know, that's fine too. I just always use the 20,000s. So. And like I said, this ain't gonna be a target gun. It'll just be like a range pistol he uses. Sits at home loaded if he wants to, you know, use it as home defense. That's fine. People are gonna say you can't use a Rock Island for home defense. Whatever. Any pistol's better than no pistol. But he's got other firearms too. So I think he just, you know, wanted a nice entry level 1911, and there's going to be comments about a Rock Island's not entry level. Well, as far as most 1911 guys, yeah, it is. People say they're junk. They're not junk. They're just there's not as much effort put into them as, you know, your higher line brands. And then, you know, for another, what, 60–70 bucks you can get a Springfield GI. Okay. I've had Springfield in the past. They're fine too. Is this on the exact same level as a Springfield GI? No, this Springfield's probably a little bit better assembled. But same amount of cast and metal injection molded parts. You know, the Springfield frames are from Brazil, so you're not having a total American pistol and stuff like that. You can find these Rock Islands on the used market, you know, arms list and stuff like that. 400 bucks, 350. If you want a 1911 to play around with and learn how to gunsmith a 1911, that's a perfect tool to start with, even if you're just using it as a training tool. At 350 bucks, I mean, there's gunsmith DVDs that cost more than that. And if you go slow enough and don't screw anything up, you'll still have a functioning pistol afterwards that you could sell if you want to and say, yeah, this has got a trigger job on it, blah, blah, blah. Show them on a, you know, trigger pull scale. This is the kind of trigger it's got, whatever. Sell it for, you know, what you have into it, or maybe a profit. And now you didn't, you know, take $1,000 pistol as your first gunsmithing idea with the possibility of ruining it. Not that any of this stuff is very tough, it's just taking your time to do it. Some people don't want to take the time, okay, that's fine. If you're going to invest money into all of these 1911 tools, I I would say that you should have at least a couple, so that it's not, you know, $200-300 in tools to do a trigger job on one pistol. You could pay a gunsmith, you know, $100-150 to do that same job if you're only going to have that one 1911. But yeah, 7 or 8, okay. Now you're talking $1 grand or two in trigger jobs. I would say buy the tools and start learning how to do it yourself. Now, usually you wouldn't be doing this much stoning on a sear if you got a nice one from, you know, like Ed Brown, Wilson Combat, EGW, stuff like that. They don't keep the sear nose that long, where I'm taking this much material off to get it down to 20 thousandths. They'll still come tall. Had a couple of fusions that came almost exactly where I needed, and there'll be just a little bit of polishing work. But for the most part, you wouldn't be doing this much stoning to a quality part. But I don't mind doing a little bit of work on this sear. I would rather have it be long than short. If it was short, we couldn't get our correct angle on it. So, yeah, right there. A little more. Alright, it's perfectly flush with 20 thousandths shim. So, I'm going to take it in this orientation. The stone's going to be riding over here on this flat against that sear nose. Just like this. Magnifiers would be helpful here. I don't feel like I'm going to grab them, so you got to take a third of that flat surface that you just stoned and give it this angle here. The reason for that is so that you don't have just that very tip of that point that I'm taking off of it right now grabbing into the hammer. Because if you had just that very tip grabbing into the hammer, you'll have a bunch of creep in the trigger, and it seems counterproductive. Like, why would you want to have more metal on metal contact? Well, think of it as, you know, tires in the mud. If you have real thin tires and you drive in the mud, it's going to get stuck. If you have big wide tires, you can drive right out of the mud smoothly. So same thing here. You're spreading the contact patch of the steel against other steel and making it operate smoother. Alright, our sear's done. We'll stone a little bit on this disconnector here. You don't have to get it perfectly shiny everywhere. Just want to take all the high areas down so that it's interacting with the trigger ball uniformly. This soft steel is clogging up my stone. We have to dress this stone down after this trigger job here. Alright, something like that. See that? See how it's shiny? Not all the way through, but we took most of that surface down. You want to just get it as flat as possible. If I went to get all of that blackness out, I would probably remove too much material, and we would run into hammer follow issues. We don't want to do that. Same thing in the front. This is where the sear spring is going to contact this disconnector. It might seem insignificant to stone an area where a sear spring leaf is touching, but it does have a lot to do with the trigger pull weight. So, as you can see there, I was sitting on there flush, and you can see that this casting was not perfectly a little bit of work on the top here. Not much. Just enough. Just to smooth it down a little bit. Grab a little 600 here. That's it for the disconnector. Alright, we got our hammer. Grab your 20,000th shim again. Set it down in these hooks. Just like this. And you'll see if these hooks are proud of the 20,000 shim. If they indeed are, which they are in this case. Set your shim on your stone, set your hammer on your shim, and what comes past will be those hooks. And it's kind of difficult to get into a rhythm here, but once you get it going, you don't want to push down too hard, or it bites on the corners. Just go like this, nice and smooth and easy. And you'll hear it slowly go away until it's just gliding on top of that shim. A little more. This isn't the most technical way to stone the hammer, but it works for me. Rather than buying a jig for the hammer too, I can get perfectly good trigger jobs with this. I have a different stone I normally use, but for this video I don't feel like going to find it. I already started and I don't want to stop. Alright, we're good there. Take the corner of your stone, get it in those notches there. Like this, and go back and forth nice and easy until you just polish up that area where the sear is going to sit down on that hammer. You're not taking tons of material here, just enough to shine it up a little. And here's where you'll see how uneven that surface was, because you'll see a bunch of shiny spots with a bunch of dull spots. You can sort of see some tooling marks in this thing too. So I do some sort of work to this before putting it in. I think I'm going to leave it as that. I'm not going to take any more, but you'll see if it'll show up. Those tooling marks there. So they do some work to this hammer before they put it in the pistol. I don't think they do very much, but something. Something's better than nothing. I can still take a little bit more of these hammer feet away. Let's get that. The sear is a pretty important piece, but the length of these hammer hooks or feet, whatever you want to call them, play a pretty big role too. So the longer these are, the more length of time in trigger pull you're still going to have hammer spring pressure on the sear. If you have, your 20 thousandths tall hammer feet and 20 thousandths of the sear nose engaging those hammer feet, you'll have the ideal trigger break. So there's our hammer. Another thing I'll do, I already prepped this egg brown spring here. I didn't give it the leaves any work, but you'll see the areas, see how it's nice and shiny on the tips? They're sort of beveled. Just that little bit will give you a lot better feel on the trigger. But I did that already to this, so we have that. What I'm going to do now is polish up this trigger bowl and the ends of this plunger, both ends. You don't have to do that for a trigger job, but it'll make it operate a little smoother. So let's go and rough this out real quick. There's the trigger bowl all polished up. I forgot about this plunger. Nice and shiny. And also on your thumb safety, right here where it engages that plunger, I'll polish up. I'm not going to do it right now because I need some stoning work on there. As you can see, there's like a little casting flash going on. But just to smooth up the operation of the safety a little bit. Inside of this trigger track area, you can clean up any of the casting flash and casting lines, anything that's in there that might impede the operation of the trigger ball. Not very much, which I'm pretty surprised with how rough this frame is internally. In the trigger track area, it's actually not bad. protectant in there. This is Ezox I'm using. You can use whatever you like. Any kind of long-lasting surface oil. Alright, put trigger back in. Mag catch. Disconnector. Sear. Sear, disconnector, hammering. Sear spray. Yeah. Be alright where it's at. I'll probably need a little work on this sear spray. Function check. Alright. Just to check what we got going on. I always put the slide on and just hold it there. See what we got. Yeah, but to do this on camera, I'm going to have to trigger pull approximation here before we tune the spring. Alright, let's see what we got now. Just by doing that. At 4. Maybe 3 7/8, 3 3/4. A little tuning of that brown spring, we should be able to get it right down to 3 1/2. Yeah. Again, we're right there. So let's see what we can do with that spring. Alright, pull this back. See how that changed? This used to be flush with with the left leaf. It was like that. Now we have it sticking back like that. And we'll see what we get out of that. See what we got now, just tweaking that. There you go. It's a Rock Island trigger job at 3 pounds in what, 30 minutes or so? So, you know, can you get a sub 3 pound trigger out of a Rock Island? Yeah, that's with stock parts.